The envelope sits on Captain Helen Marsh's desk at 6:47 in the morning. No return address, no stamp, hand-delivered sometime during the night, slipped under the precinct's front door like it belonged there. Inside, a single typed page, clean font, precise spacing. The message is short. Margaret Olson. Beat, November 14th. Beat, she won't hear you coming. Nobody takes it seriously. The department gets strange mail every week. Angry drunks, conspiracy theorists, attention seekers who want to feel important. The envelope gets logged, photographed, and filed somewhere between a noise complaint and a parking dispute. 6 days later, Margaret Olson, a 58-year-old retired librarian with no criminal record, no known enemies, no reason to be on anyone's radar, is found strangled in her kitchen in the Millhaven district of Blackridge. Before we go any further, if you're new here, this channel covers real inspired crime stories, psychological thrillers, and cases that will stay with you long after the video ends. Hit subscribe and turn on notifications so you never miss one. Now, let's get back to Blackridge. Her reading glasses are still on her face. Her tea has gone cold on the counter. The front door was locked from the inside. Blackridge sits along the northern edge of the state, like a city that never quite decided what it wanted to be. Rain comes in off the hills 9 months out of 12. The streets downtown are narrow and gray, packed between brick buildings that haven't been renovated since the 70s. There's a paper mill that closed a decade ago and left a chemical smell hanging in the air near the river. The people here are tired in a specific way, not lazy, just worn. They've been watching jobs disappear and crime reports climb for long enough that they've stopped expecting anything different. Detective Adrian Cross drives to the Olson scene at 5:40 in the morning, coffee in one hand, still wearing the same clothes he had on the night before. He hasn't slept more than 3 hours. He rarely does anymore. His apartment on Garfield Street is full of open case files and empty bourbon bottles lined along the windsill with a precision that might suggest either obsession or irony, depending on how well you know him. His captain called him personally, which means either the scene is bad or the department needs someone they trust to keep his mouth shut. It's both. The crime scene is wrong in a way that's hard to articulate at first. There's no sign of forced entry, no defensive wounds on Margaret's hands, no furniture disturbed. Whoever did this moved through her home like they'd been there before, knew the layout, knew her routine. The forensic technician, a quiet woman named Dara Yuen, pulls Adrian aside near the kitchen doorway and holds up an evidence bag. Inside is a small black cassette tape, the old-fashioned kind that nobody uses anymore, sitting on the kitchen table as if it had been placed there intentionally.
"Found it next to the sugar bowl," Dara says. "Did you play it?" She nods once. Her expression answers the rest. The tape contains approximately 40 seconds of static, then slow, distorted breathing, and then a voice, whispered, processed, barely human, that says, "You were too late again." Three weeks pass. Adrian works the Olson case with the obsessive patience of a man who doesn't have much else. He interviews her neighbors, her book club, her estranged son in Portland. Nothing connects. He's standing in the break room on a Tuesday afternoon when a junior officer named Simmons drops a fresh evidence bag on the table next to his coffee. Another envelope, same clean font, same absence of postage. Daniel Voss, December 3rd, he won't finish his shift. Daniel Voss is 31 years old. He drives a night shift delivery truck for a pharmaceutical distributor. He has no connection to Margaret Olson. Different neighborhood, different age, different life. Captain Marsh puts 2 patrol units on him quietly and tells Adrian not to say anything to the press. 3 days before December 3rd, Daniel calls his girlfriend and tells her he's going to be late. He's never late. He's the kind of man who texts when he's 10 minutes behind. On the morning of December 3rd, his truck is found idling on the shoulder of Route 9, engine running, driver's door open. Daniel Voss is in the cargo hold. The cassette tape is on the dashboard. The department can no longer pretend it's a coincidence. Adrian is officially assigned lead investigator. He's given 2 junior detectives, Simmons and a transfer named Reyes, a shared evidence room, and a mandate from the captain that amounts to figure it out before the press does. The mayor's office is already making calls. 3 city council members want to hold a press conference. Marsh is running out of time to manage the silence. Adrian doesn't care about the mayor. He cares about the letters. He pins every one of them to a board in the evidence room and reads them like he reads everything else, slowly, repeatedly, from multiple angles. The letters aren't boastful. They're not taunting in any theatrical way. They're almost clinical. The names, the dates, the spare language. What unsettles Adrian isn't the information they contain, it's what they don't contain. No demands, no signature, no manifesto, no ideology. Most killers who communicate with police are performing. They want an audience, want recognition, want credit. These letters feel like something else entirely. They feel like instructions. In mid-December, the surveillance footage from the alley behind Daniel Voss's route disappears from the server. The IT officer logs it as a system glitch, but the timestamp on the deletion shows it was accessed from inside the department building at 2:14 in the morning, 3 days after the murder. Adrian notes it. He doesn't mention it to anyone. 2 weeks before Christmas, a 3rd letter arrives. This time, the victim is a 45-year-old high school science teacher named Carl Pruitt. The letter includes one addition that none of the previous ones had, a single sentence at the bottom, italicized, set apart from the rest of the text. Adrian already knows why I choose them. He doesn't, but the fact that the killer believes he does keeps him awake for 4 consecutive nights. Carl Pruitt dies exactly as predicted. The cassette tape is left inside his car. The forensic results come back the same as before. No fingerprints, no DNA transfer, no usable trace evidence. Whoever is doing this understands forensic science at a professional level, moves without panic, and has the patience to observe targets over extended periods without detection. Adrian has been doing this job for 16 years. He has never encountered a crime scene this clean. He gets home on a Thursday night in late January to find his apartment door slightly ajar. He doesn't draw his weapon immediately. He moves inside slowly, hand on his holster, clearing each room the way he was trained. Nothing is visibly out of place. No one is inside. He almost convinces himself he left the door open. Then he sees the envelope on his kitchen table. His name is on the front, not his title, not his badge number, just Adrian. Inside is a photograph. Printed on standard paper, the image is grainy but unmistakable. It was taken through his bedroom window from outside, low angle, likely from ground level or a fire escape. Adrian is asleep in his own bed. The timestamp in the lower corner reads 3 weeks ago. He sits down at the kitchen table and does not move for a long time. He doesn't report it that night. This is the decision that will define the rest of the investigation. Whether it's pride, paranoia, or the instinct of a man who no longer fully trusts the institution he works inside, he keeps the photograph to himself. He puts it in the inside pocket of his jacket and wears it like a second heartbeat. Reyes notices the shift in him within days. She's perceptive in the way that younger detectives sometimes are, not yet dulled by the job, still paying attention to behavior instead of just evidence. She brings him coffee one morning and asks quietly if he's sleeping. "Enough," he says. She doesn't believe him, but she doesn't push. In February, a witness in the Voss case, a dock worker named Terry Helm, who had previously identified a white cargo van near the route on the night of the murder, recants his statement entirely. He claims he was confused, that it was a different night, that he doesn't remember what he saw. Adrian drives to Terry's apartment and knocks for 20 minutes. The lights are on, no one answers. Adrian pulls the original case files on Margaret Olson and reads them again from the beginning. He's looking for something he missed. He finds it on page 11 of the background report, a name that appears in her address book, cross-referenced in an unrelated 1999 community development record. The name means nothing to him yet, but the file code attached to it is a department internal archive code, a case number that shouldn't be in a community development record. He requests the file formally through the department records system. 3 days later, the records clerk tells him there's no file matching that number. The system shows it was purged. Adrian asks when. The clerk checks twice, then looks up at him with a carefully neutral expression. 1998, she says. He drives to his father's house on a Sunday. Raymond Cross is 71 years old and lives alone in a house near the edge of the city where the roads turn to gravel. He spent 28 years with Blackridge PD before a quiet early retirement that Adrian never fully understood. Father and son speak infrequently. Their relationship is built on a specific mutual avoidance of certain subjects, certain years, certain silences that have calcified into permanent fixtures. Adrian sits across from him at the kitchen table and puts the archive code on the table between them. Raymond looks at it for a long moment. He picks up his coffee. He doesn't say anything. "Dad." "That was before your time. Someone thinks it's not before mine." Raymond sets the coffee down. "You should be careful with this." "I need the file." "There is no file." "Then I need whatever you remember." What Raymond offers is partial and reluctant, delivered in the careful language of a man who spent decades learning to say as little as possible. In 1998, there was an investigation, internally referred to only by a number, never a name, involving a series of deaths in Blackridge that were attributed to accidents and medical causes, but that a small group of detectives believed were coordinated killings. The case was building quietly when it was shut down. Not closed, shut down. Someone at the department level made a decision, and files were pulled. Reports were reclassified, and the detectives involved were quietly reassigned or pushed toward early retirement. Raymond was one of them. He will not say who gave the order. He will not say what the evidence pointed toward. He stares at the table instead and says, "I thought it was over." The fifth letter arrives in early March. This time it doesn't go to the precinct. It goes directly to the evidence room, left inside on Adrian's desk while the building was occupied and the cameras were running. The footage shows nothing, a 16-second gap in the recording, then the envelope is simply there. Inside are coordinates and a time, March 19th, 11 p.m. Captain Marsh authorizes the raid without telling the mayor's office. 10 officers, 2 detectives, 1 forensic team.
The address resolves to an abandoned climate-controlled storage facility near the old paper mill, a windowless concrete building that hasn't been commercially occupied in years. Inside, they find a room approximately 40 feet wide, floor-to-ceiling evidence boxes, dozens of them, each one labeled with a case number, a date, and a victim name. Cases that never appeared in any official record. Crimes that Blackridge PD never publicly acknowledged. Dates that span nearly 30 years. Adrian reads names off the boxes in the cold white light of his flashlight and feels a specific kind of dread. Not fear of what's in the room, but recognition. He's been here before, in another sense. This is where an investigation leads when the institution it operates inside has been protecting something. At the center of the room, a monitor mounted on a folding table flickers on. The video is distorted, the face obscured beyond recognition, the voice filtered through some kind of processing software. But the message is clear, deliberate, each word placed exactly where it belongs. Everything in this room was buried to protect people who are still alive. I needed you to find it. You were the only one they couldn't reach. Ask your father what happened to the boy in 1998. Ask him why the file had his name on the closure order. The screen goes black before anyone can trace the signal. The timestamp on the monitor shows it was triggered remotely. Adrian stands in that room for a long time after the others start processing evidence. Reyes watches him from across the room. She doesn't speak. He drives home alone at 2:30 in the morning. The city is quiet in the specific way it gets in March, cold, damp, the streetlights refracting off wet pavement into long yellow smears. He parks on Garfield Street and sits in his car for a few minutes before going upstairs. His apartment door is locked. Nothing appears out of place. On the kitchen table there is a black cassette tape. He sits down. He picks it up. He turns it over in his hands and looks at it for a moment. This small, ordinary object that has appeared at every point of horror in this case, always after he was too late, always confirming the same unbearable thing. He puts it in the old player he keeps in the kitchen drawer, the one he bought at a garage sale years ago and cannot explain why he never threw out. He presses play. Static, then breathing, then a whisper, the same distorted voice, just close enough to be human. Now the real investigation begins. Adrian sits in the silence of his apartment, the tape still turning, and stares at the wall. Outside, the rain starts again. Somewhere in this city, in a filing cabinet, or a basement, or a locked room he hasn't found yet, something is waiting to be read. He knows this the way he knows everything that matters, not from evidence, not from testimony, but the slow accumulation of dread that settles in the body when a man realizes the case he thought he was solving was never the case at all. He was never chasing a killer. He was being guided toward a grave. That cassette tape, that final whisper, that's where Adrian's real story begins. If this one kept you watching, you know what to do. Subscribe, drop a comment telling me who you think the killer really is, and check out right here. I'll see you in the next one.